Hello and welcome to Beyond the Deal, the show where we go deeper than the numbers and we talk about what leads to success in life and business. And today on the show, my guest is Sylvia Khoury. She is actually a single mother of three who turned to real estate in order to take care of her family, not just her three children, but also two dying parents. So what a fantastic story. And without further ado, let's get into it. All right, Sylvia Khoury, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here.
Thank you, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Now, for our guests who maybe are unfamiliar with you, can you give us the quick spiel, give us the rundown? What are you doing in life right now?
Oh, I've done many things, but right now I'm focused on real estate, on commercial real estate, multifamily real estate. But I started out as a pharmacist, and I realized during COVID and the few years before COVID, when I was taking care of three kids and two sick parents, I realized that job wasn't enough. Needed something steady, consistent on the side. And long story short, it led me to real estate, and here we are.
Awesome. So, what you mentioned COVID, I mean, that was a pivotal time for everyone. What was kind of like the inciting moment that you said, I'm going to do real estate, and what was the action step you took to actually get involved?
Well, to be honest, I was already doing some real estate. We were buying, houses whenever we could and renting them out, keeping them for a few years, selling them, that sort of thing. And in hindsight, when you get to this point, this breaking point where before COVID, several years before COVID, I was taking care of three kids and two dying parents by myself. So just having my time completely, obligated to everything and everybody else just made me realize, well, what if I can't make it to work? What if I don't get that income? What if the time I'm giving right now to my family is not enough and I have to cut back at work? What am I going to do? How am I going to hold a roof over my kids' heads, or how are we going to continue? So it just got me thinking. You get to this completely desolate dead end in life where you're just like, I have to figure out a better way. And it takes years to figure it out. But looking back, I realized the only thing that was consistently working for me was real estate. Because those houses are the things that kept us supported in the times that I couldn't get that 9 to 5 income, or I couldn't get that for sure, coverage for my bills or whatever it may be. That was the only thing that was consistent. So it just made more sense to continue down that path.
So why didn't you just buy a bunch of houses then and continue renting them out? What made you decide to get into multifamily and commercial real estate?
So when my dad was sick, he kept telling me to get my real estate license. My dad worked a full-time job as an immigrant. He worked from the day he set foot in the country, and he got a good job with the county as an engineer. And he was doing that my whole childhood, my whole life, but he also got his real estate broker on the side. And the one thing that was helping us instead of just the 9 to 5 was him being able to not just trade in real estate, but invest himself in real estate. And that's what actually made us able to take care of my mom after he passed, because he was able to sell those properties, and that money went towards taking care of my mom. Healthcare in this country has gone downhill, to say the least. And I didn't like the way healthcare was going, and COVID kind of proclaimed that even more. It kind of reinforced that even more, made it harder to do anything. It was also a good real estate opportunity too. Who knew that was coming?
And the multifamily specifically?
Yeah, multifamily specifically. Sorry, I digressed, didn't I? Yeah, the more I learned about real estate, the more I realized from COVID especially that, well, if I have a couple rentals and now they're in this position where they don't have to pay, I'm 100% exposed. I'm 100% on the hook for that mortgage and those expenses on that house. Whereas multifamily, if I have 100 unit and someone moves out or doesn't pay or there's an issue, I'm only 1% exposed, or 2% if there's 2 or 3 tenants. It's just a level of stability that I needed in my life.
Got it. So I actually didn't even think about this, but you are based in California. So did you have to deal with that during COVID? I mean, it's impossible to get people out.
I got lucky, but it made me nervous as hell. Like I just thought of, okay, if one of our tenants stops paying, what are we going to do? And that forced the multifamily thing for me even.
Got it. So you make the decision to get into multifamily. Obviously, you got economies of scale, percentage of, vacancy based on units. It makes total sense. Obviously, you're preaching to the choir here as a multifamily person myself. What's the action step you take? How do you go from, I own a couple houses to I want to buy an apartment building? What's the first thing you do?
Well, I learned everything I could. I learned by paying for coaching, paying for training, paying for all that with the right group. And I also made a ton of connections that way, conferences, meetups, connected with everybody I could, everybody that was doing what I wanted to do. And eventually I realized, okay, well, I'm in a position now. I've set myself up. I've got, a self-directed retirement fund that I can use to invest. But who do I invest with? So that went back to the networking and the researching and the trying to figure it all out and deciphering deals. And over time with practice, it kind of came true. And then I started selling off some of the properties we had in California for that same reason. And here we are.
Awesome.
Keep going.
And so what's the first deal? What was it like? Talk us through that experience.
Ooh, that one was a little painful. Not going to lie. The first deal I went into was with my retirement. So I was a little brave because it was just a portion. And I did some calculations and figured, okay, well, even if this doesn't go well or it takes longer, it's still okay, right? So that was 3 years ago. Yeah, about 3 years ago. That was supposed to be a 1-year quick return project. And It's still not. Got some good news from it. The investors that I did go with, they kind of went silent, ghosted for a while, didn't report, didn't give us any updates, wouldn't answer calls. But just recently, it's actually coming back. They're saying that they are going to make good on the returns, probably towards the end of this year.
Okay. So I want to get into a couple things here because I love this topic, and I think so many people can relate who are familiar with, the way that real estate cycles have gone the last 3 years or so, right? So that would put you at 2022. And I assume that probably the closing happened in the first half of 2022 when everything was rosy and people had just been flipping deals in 18 months and they delivered a 2x return in an 18 month, and crazy IRRs were happening for all of 2020 and 2021 and the first half of 2022, and then boom, interest rate hike, everything changes. So your first deal, you're actually talking about this from the LP perspective.
Exactly.
And now you're a GP. So you've actually got both sides of this. So can you tell us a little bit about, I'm glad that things are coming back around from this deal, but can you tell us, what have you learned as far as how to communicate with your investors as a current capital raiser, and the kind of things that can go sideways and what to do in those situations?
So that's actually exactly why I wanted to start as an LP, just to see what it's like to be on the receiving side. And then also to figure out, okay, well, what would it take to sell me on this deal? What do I like seeing in a deal? When you first start, you want to learn what's being offered out there and then what works for you and what doesn't. And that was one of the reasons I actually started kind of strong being an LP, just to see how the deals are. I must have gone through sat through, 40, 50 webinars and a bunch of different slide decks and everybody's presentations and even some people's underwriting, just to see what I believe in, what works for me, what I think is the best option. I wanted to know all that and be secure in all that before I was a GP. I know it sounds backwards, but if you try to get someone, for me, it's much easier to jeopardize my own money than for me to take the responsibility of bringing someone else's money in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, if it was my money on the line, I'm okay to lose it. But if it's my family's money, God forbid, oh my gosh, you know how much harder you're going to work to make sure that investment is protected when it's like the people you know and love and care about, that, their money is on the line. Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. And, that's something I think a lot of GPs and capital raisers maybe haven't considered that much, but go through the process of somebody else, go through if you're a capital raiser and you want to see how other people do it, let them pitch you a deal and find out what you do and don't like. That's an excellent piece of advice.
So I did a lot of that, probably a little too much, but.
Well, did it leave you feeling confused or did it leave you feeling solidified and this is what I'm looking for?
No, it left me very picky with the deals that I agreed to be involved in. It left me very confident and picky. I'm very selective. Like I didn't want to just join the first person that said, give us 100,000 and you can raise with us and be part of the team. I didn't want to do that.
Right. Hey, really quick, I hope you're enjoying this episode. I just wanted to stop for a second and thank our sponsor, which is me. Nimble Capital Group is my boutique investment firm where we help passive investors access deals built for cash flow, equity growth, and powerful tax benefits. And if you think you've ever wanted to learn how to raise capital and become a GP yourself, I coach a select group of students each month, most of whom will raise over $500,000 within their first 60 days. So check the show notes in the description below to book a call. I'll see you there. So, I mean, let's talk about that. What are the things that, need to see in a deal, and what are some things that you'd probably like cause you to avoid a deal?
Things that cause me to avoid a deal would be not conservative underwriting, where they're assuming that the cap rate is just going to be magical in 5 years. Or they're assuming they're in an area that's prone to hurricanes and they're assuming their insurance is not going to increase in the next 5 years. Just things where it just doesn't make sense to me. And I've seen both of those things actually.
Right.
So if it doesn't make sense to me, and then also, of course, location. I'm a real estate agent as well. So for me, location is a big thing. I have to see the promise of that location, either, big growth, different types of industry, solid, continuing population growth and employment, things like that. But the big no's are how they're underwriting it.
Yeah. What kind of assumptions are they making?
Are they making safe assumptions, or are they just assuming the world is rosy?
Well, I would hope that in the post-2022 syndicator environment, most people know what kind of things can go wrong. But I would say that certainly pre-2022, I think a lot of people assumed that things were just going to keep on continuing on the trend that they were on. And that was an unprecedented time. I mean, people who'd been syndicating for decades before that had still never seen that kind of year-over-year growth. And to think that it was just going to continue was, and we were all probably naive. And certainly look how things shook out. Right. Yeah. And the people who are still standing after that are the ones who had they didn't paint the rosy picture. They said, okay, if everything goes wrong on this deal, can we still pay this price? And I think nobody really thought that their mortgages were going to go from 3% to 9% overnight. But, some people are in tough positions now, and some people have survived relatively unscathed, right? So Now, as far as markets, I know you're invested in Arizona. I know you're based in California. Would you buy in California? Where are you looking for multifamily right now?
The tenant laws and stuff in California, it does turn me off, but there is good money to be made here. So I'd be more prone to flipping a house here than to, being a landlord here. But yeah, some of the other investments and more landlord friendly states, let's say, where the laws aren't so restrictive and so exposing to the landlord financially, because you could take months or years to get a squatter out of a house here.
Yeah.
Whereas Texas, they show up with, the sheriff 3 days later. Yeah. It's just different.
Got it. So a lot of our guests on this show, we tend to talk about the journey of leaving your 9-to-5 and becoming an entrepreneur. You didn't do that. You are still an active pharmacist, correct?
I am an active pharmacist, but I do it 3 days a week. And
okay.
That money is to keeping the roof over my kids' heads and their college funds and all of that. And everything else through my being a real estate agent or real estate investor is recycling on that half of my life. So I'm double personality at this point.
Triple employee at this point. So how do you do it? How do you juggle being a realtor, being a pharmacist, being a single mother, keeping the roof over your kid's head, raising capital for real estate, and making sure that all your deals are going well?
I compartmentalize, let's say. The time that I'm at work, I'm only doing that, but I don't take any of that home with me. So when I'm at home, my kids are a little older. They're not so cool with hanging out with mom as much. 2 of them are in college. One's getting married. So they're pretty busy on their own. But yeah, we always check in, of course, but they're pretty busy on their own. And the real estate agent thing, I don't market heavily. I just do it for friends and family, really. So that kind of ebbs and flows. Even the investor side, sometimes we're a lot busier with our deals than we are every single day. And sometimes it's a lot less busy. But I don't know. I make time. I figure it out. Lose sleep sometimes. Right. I won't lie.
So that is the thing that we do always ask our guests at the end of the show. So I am personally a, prioritize my health kind of person, prioritize my sleep, my eating, my exercise. Are there any habits or practices that you've had to sort of embrace as you've become a triple entrepreneur or a triple employed person, I should say, that have allowed you to become successful and continue doing what you're doing?
I won't lie. I have fun doing what I'm doing, so I don't feel like I need to run away from it. I have felt like I needed to run away from my 9-to-5, but I haven't really felt like I need to run away from the real estate side yet. I do enjoy it. So, but yeah, to walk, I do walk. I try to eat healthy. Do I always succeed? Can't say that either. I have my moments. I do go on a lot of walks with friends.
And then what does the future for Sylvia and real estate look like? What are the goals? What are you trying to accomplish in the next year or two?
Oh gosh, I wish I had a good answer for that. I take it one deal at a time and one opportunity at a time. And as long as it's in the right direction growing, I take it.
And for our guests who maybe want to invest with you or find out more about you, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
I'm open. Call, text, email, Facebook, Instagram. My LinkedIn I'm not too active on right now, but that's because I'm trying to think about how to revamp it, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's on my Pharmacist side, and I'm working on shifting that over.
Okay. Well, Sylvia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Michael. It's a pleasure.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Beyond the Deal. I hope you got some valuable insights that you can apply to your own investing journey. Now, if you've enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor, hit that follow button, leave a review, and share this episode with somebody who you think could benefit from it. It really helps the show grow and bring on even more incredible guests. If you want to go deeper, make sure to follow me on your socials. You can find the links in the show notes in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time. Until then, keep going beyond the deal.